Hi, I'm Jennifer Kantorski, new member coordinator, Troop 444.
And I'm Kevin Kantorski, the Council Training Chairperson.
We've been asked to help demystify setting up a campsite kitchen. We will approach this for those who are just starting to camp or have very little experience.
For more training on this, you should really look at the training courses such as BALOO, Basic Adult Leader, Outdoor Orientation for Cub Leaders, or IOLS, Introduction to Outdoor Leader Skills, which is designed for Webelow leaders and Scouts BSA leaders. Lots of great information on this and many other topics during those weekends.
Just like the first point of leave no trace, you really need to know before you go.
Know what kind of facilities are going to be available where you're going.
Know how many people you need to cook for.
And know what you are going to cook.
You get the idea.
Planning makes perfect, so let's get started. So let's talk about location. You want to make sure you pick a spot that is not in your direct area of the group's activities. You really don't need people trampling through your kitchen while you are preparing food. While you're finding that spot, you make sure you want to find a level spot as well as a spot that is not low-lying, because standing in a puddle is not really fun while you're preparing the food. Is there a pavilion available? That would be great because it can keep you out of the sun, give you some protection from the sun or from the liquid sunshine. If not, maybe you think about bringing a 10 by 10 pop-up or some sort of other canopy shelter. Are you cooking at night? It gets dark at night and you're going to need some sort of light. While a headlamp would work, it's only going to illuminate the area in front of you. It'd be much more comfortable to have some sort of light, like an LED camp lantern that you can hang or put on a tabletop, or even a construction work light that you can use and illuminate a larger area. Makes it much more comfortable.
Let's talk tables. Tables are used as a place to put the stove, to prepare the food, and to serve the food. But what kind of tables are there? Most facilities do have picnic tables available, but how many? Are there enough? Sometimes we do bring additional tables for additional work area. You can bring a small fold-up camp table. We do like to bring a plastic table. It's at a counter height, so it's easy for cooking and chopping. Just remember that plastic tables will melt under heat, so if you're going to put your stove on it, you want to make sure you bring a piece of plywood to put your stove on so you don't melt the table. If you don't have a plastic table or a camp table, you don't need to run out and buy one. If you have some sawhorses, you could use that and put an old door or a piece of plywood on it. Also, we do bring plastic tablecloths to cover the picnic tables so that we have a clean work area. You can also use a bungee cord to secure the tablecloth onto the table so then it doesn't blow around in the wind. And sometimes we can bring extra little scraps of wood to put underneath the legs of the picnic table to even it out, because sometimes campsites are not always level.
So let's talk about cooking. While cooking over an open fire is a great scouting activity, if you're just starting out or you're cooking for a larger group, it does pose some problems. Having all the tools, bringing the charcoal, and timing the fire, as well as picking the right meal to cook over that fire, are some of those challenges. Let's look at a 2-burner stove. Typically this is a propane stove. It's a popular item. Many families may already have it if they've done some sort of camping. They take the 1-pound tanks or a 20-pound tank that's very similar to your gas grill. You can use multiples of them, so you can have 2 stoves going for a little bit larger group. And they're nice because they have 2 burners, so you can be able to put 2 different things on it at the same time. If you're cooking pancakes or something like that, you can use a griddle, and the griddle is designed to fit across both burners. Now, one of the things about the griddles is, because these are 2 heat sources, the heat is not going to evenly distribute across some different materials. So like an aluminum griddle will have some cold spots in the edges. So using a cast iron griddle is probably the best option to be able to maximize your surface area for that. Now, one of the limitations of the propane stove is it only generates about 20,000 BTU across both burners. What that really means is, if you needed a lot of heat to heat up a larger pot or some sort of water, it may take a little bit longer to get hot. So let's look at a little bit bigger of a stove. When we do our training weekends, we usually have to feed many more people. So we use a couple of these 2-burner upright stoves. Camp Chef is one of the companies that makes them, and they're available for about $150 new. We connect them with a 20-pound propane tank, and you can usually get the fittings to be able to connect multiple stoves off of the same tank. These are great because when you have larger pots with chili or soup or water even for cleaning up your dishes, it gets the heat much faster, heats them up much faster. In comparison to the 2-burner stove, where that was 20,000 BTU per across both burners, these stoves usually rate about 30,000 BTU per burner. So you can tell there's a lot more heat that's being able to generate, which is able to get your food get hotter a lot faster.
Let's talk about cold storage. Coolers are your solution to your cold storage needs. Make sure that the coolers you're using are appropriate for the length of time you're going to be in the outdoors. Hard plastic coolers are better than soft-sided ones, but soft-sideds are good if you're just going out for an afternoon. Make sure to not overpack your coolers. You want to leave room for your ice, your bag of ice, or your ice alternative that you can use to keep your food cold. Items you can use is you can get a bag of ice, open it up and pour it all over everything in your coolers. Kevin made these fancy PVC tubes. He made a couple different sizes. This size fits in the smaller cooler. He also made some that are larger that'll fit in the bigger cooler. You could also buy some bottled water and pour out a good couple inches out of it, put the lid back on it, put it in your freezer so it gets frozen, and then you could use that inside your cooler to keep things cold, and then as it melts you will have water to drink. You could use also like Gatorade, any kind of non-carbonated beverage, open it up, pour a little bit out, put them in the freezer. You want to leave room in the top of anything that you're going to put in the freezer for expansion purposes. You don't want it to blow out the bottle as it freezes. And again, freeze it, put it in the cooler, and then as it melts, it'll keep your food cold, and then as it melts, you do have something to drink. You want to be careful to not put glass in your coolers. It's not good for transportation that way, and you will end up with a cooler full of watery marinara. Remember that ice does melt, so you want to pack things in waterproof containers. A lot of items already have a resealable zip top on it. Like, you can reseal it. I can tell you the number of times we have had to throw out waterlogged lunch meat and cheese because it was swimming in cooler water. So get a container to stick it in. Also, the cheeses that have the resealable, just stick it back down, they don't stick really well in water. So put these in a zip top bag. Make sure everything is sealed up good when you put it back in. And don't forget your weenies. So if you have a smaller cooler, and you have just ice in there, you can easily take your items out, dump out the water, put the stuff back in with whatever ice is remaining. If you have a bigger cooler, most of them do have a drain hole. You can pop open the drain hole, have one of your strong scouts tip it out, tip all the water out, make sure they seal the hole back up. And you do want to make sure that you dump the water not where you're standing. Find an area off of your cooking area to dump the water. You also may want to have a different cooler for different items. Like a bigger cooler for your larger items like a gallon of milk or containers of orange juice. The smaller coolers can be used for like sandwich making items, something easily accessible. Or sometimes we put drinks in the smaller cooler because we know that people will be in and out of it more frequently, and then the bigger one can stay closed and cold, and it'll remain colder longer.
So you're going to need to bring some dry products with you. Maybe the breads or canned goods and those kind of things. Storage totes of some type are the best option. Cardboard boxes, not so much. They're really not that sturdy, and they usually fall apart or get damaged when they get wet. They don't do a really good job keeping the critters out either. So latching storage totes are a great solution, whether it's Rubbermaid or some other brand. Latching storage totes allow you to keep your products dry, keep critters out, and if it's windy, the lid usually doesn't blow away. So in our boxes, we normally have we usually bring a couple different totes, depending on what we're taking. We really don't want to put your canned goods in the same tote as your breads because your bread gets smashed. So in this tote over here, we put some of our bigger items like our canned goods, the beans, go along with those weenies that we just had. You got crackers. Crackers are great, right? Cracker Barrel. Instead of bringing the box, you might want to think about, again, using some sort of sealable storage tote. One less thing to throw out when you're camping, and then this gives you a nice storage, a protective case to put your products away when you're done using it. And if you're going to bring like pancake mix, rather than bringing a big bag, you might think about taking reusing a tote of some type, a container, and putting your powder pre-mixed into one of those, so that you don't have to deal with the big bag and having a big mess on you on the site with you. So our other tote, we keep some of our dry products or our bread products. The bread and buns, those are the things that usually get squished, so we make sure they're not in a heavier tote. Potato chips, those aren't really good crunchy. And because we're taping this on Taco Tuesday, can't forget the taco shells. Those are kind of delicate as well. Last thing is, if you're going to make some pasta, rather than bringing out the uncooked pasta, it's probably a good idea that you pre-boil those and drain those at home and seal them in a Ziploc bag or another storage tote and put it in your cold storage. It saves some time while you're camping and it saves a lot of cleanup mess. And if you need to reheat it, you can either mix it up with some salad. Yeah, salad goes really good with pasta, but with some spaghetti sauce or a little bit of water in a pot and kind of heat it up that way.
So let's talk about the things that you're going to need to cook the food. A lot of troops have patrol boxes that carry all their items in. The downfall of the patrol box is it's bulky and heavy.
We've put together a lightweight storage tote, again another latching tote to keep water and critter out of. And we've put this together over a couple years. Don't worry about writing the items down as you see this, because we'll put a link in the comments below where we priced this out recently. As I said, we've put this together over a couple years, but we find a lot of useful items in here. There are a couple things that you may not need the first time out, but let's take a look.
The first is a small set of plates and a small set of bowls that we got at IKEA. They come in handy for using as little serving dishes if you're having burgers or hot dogs and you need condiments. Or the plates also do come in handy for using as cutting boards when other people are volunteering to help and you don't have any more cutting boards. So they can be used as that. They've also come in handy when a couple of scouts have forgotten to bring their mess kit. So we do have plates for them to eat on.
So cutting boards, great places to look for these things are like Menards, has a lot of sales sometimes in the area, or Amazon is great, another place. Cutting boards are useful. We have a serving platter. Usually, I think we'll put some fruit sometimes on there, or buns as we're pulling them out, rather than pulling them out of the bags.
This is a colander. It's awesome because it pops out for colander usage. We do recommend pre-cooking pasta, anything like that you would need to drain, because pasta is not super awesome to drain in the outdoors. But this is good if you need to rinse off fruit or anything else that you do need to drain while you're out. And I love it because it does fold flat and it's easy for storage.
We have a variety of mixing bowls. These mixing bowls are nice because if you're making a Dutch oven dessert or pancakes or something like that, gives you a little pouring lip, nice and lightweight. It's also another place to put chips or those kind of things. And then we have a couple GFS inexpensive plastic bowls. And again, just large items in case you're serving if you're doing a family style, or not family style, buffet style, you can lay your items out. And then funnels, they occasionally come in handy, and they're really inexpensive and don't take up a lot of room. So now let's talk about pots. Pots are probably one of the difficult things to know what you're going to need and find the right set to not take up a lot of room. Some units end up having pots that are handed down from families when they upgrade their kitchenware. And that's great, but that might be good for starting out. Depending how much time you want to invest in it, you may want to look at some other product. This is something that we've looked at and finally found on Amazon. It's a nesting kit, which is kind of handy. So, not in this nice small package, you get a fry pan. We happen to find a stainless steel bowl that just happened to fit in there. Comes with a lid that's gradiated for different pots and pans. And then there's one handle. So that's probably the one drawback of this is there's a single handle. But it's a really quick, easy thing. You can put it on, put that down on the stove, pull it off, and take your next pot if you need to move it. And in here there's a couple different size saucepans. A small one, a medium one, a larger one,
and an extra large.
Yeah. So depending again what you're doing and how many people you're cooking for, this might be the right size. Kind of depends a little bit.
We did find some additional lids at IKEA. They're just general lid sizes. They will fit. So this set that we have, the lid that comes with it won't fit over the fry pan or the big pot. So this lid will fit over both of them.
And those lids actually will fit also for our fry pans. So they fit up there if you're scrambling some eggs or heating up something else that you need to keep the temperature in. That's a good thing.
The thing to keep in mind if you are using a Teflon based pan is you do not want to use a metal scraper. You want to use something that has a nylon on it because you don't want to scratch the pot. You also want to be careful when you clean it to only use nylon or cloth. Once your Teflon is scratched, it is no longer effective and you should not use it.
And one of the things as we're storing it, we picked up some cork hot pads to line in between so when we're storing it and transporting it, the bottom of the pan doesn't scratch up the next surface.
And then you have hot pads when you're out and you need a hot pad.
You got it. We'll take a look at our utensils next.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the utensils that go with our cook kit.
One of the important things that we found was having a storage tote. Again, we like a clear one, but one that definitely locks so that you can keep it secured in outdoor elements. So again, we'll have the list of these in the comments below. A lot of these are things that you can collect over time, but we'll just kind of go through them and show you what we have. Whisk, a lot of people like making pancakes while they're camping or Dutch oven dessert. So a whisk is something good to have for making cake batter.
Yes.
Along with cake cooking or baking, you might need some measuring spoons. So a nice little set. We like to set that on a key ring so that's easy to not lose them all. Or not lose one. But you'd lose them all if you lost them. So.
You would lose them all.
And a temperature thermometer, right? A lot of times if you're cooking something or if you're just warming up, you may want to know how hot the temperature is or how warm it is. A good metal one is great. The plastic ones have a tendency of melting or cracking, so you find a metal one is a good fit. The next couple items are nylon coated utensils. Again, nylon coated, one, because we have a couple Teflon pans with us. And two, just the metal ones get scratched up and
Yeah.
In some of these, we have multiples of them. Spatula flippers, serving spoons, and ladles. Really, we bought a kit. I think it was a 3-pack.
A 3-set.
And we bought 2 of them just because we figured there were times that I was needing to flip something and somebody else needed to flip something on another stove. So it's kind of handy to have sometimes have extras of those things.
And the same goes with the extras of the tongs. We have 2 sets of tongs. Both of them do have the nylon tips on the end, so they can be used in the Teflon pans or on the grill or whatever. But they're heat safe.
One of the cool things a multi-purpose use of the ladle. Not only is it good for serving soups and sauces, but you can use it to pour out your batter for pancakes, as well as if you're making hot chocolate in a big batch, not the individual cups. You can take this and easily pour it into a cup for the Scouts.
This strainer is kind of one of those things that you don't necessarily need. We use it if you're skimming stuff off of stuff that you're cooking. You want to skim something off of the pot. Kevin has a good use for a can.
You can use it to strain out the water out of like a canned vegetable. So it might not be something you need right away, but something that we found handy to have.
Yes. A different set of spatulas, a scraper spatula as opposed to a flipper spatula. So we have a couple of those.
Those are great to get the last drop of batter off of for those Dutch oven cakes.
We have a set of wooden tools, a wooden spoon and a couple wooden forks. Wood can be tricky because once they get wet, it takes a while for them to dry. So if you use them and you wash them, just leave them out. Or when you get home, make sure you take them out so they can air out and completely dry. The forks are good for salad. You can also use them to serve spaghetti.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about the tote is when we get home, we double check, make sure everything got clean, but we make sure we leave the lid off for a couple days just to make sure everything has a chance to fully air dry before we seal it up and get some funny smells in there next time we open it up.
We got a couple scrapers. I think we got these at Menards. They have like a spatula scraper on the end, a stirring end on the other, a little bit of a strainer thing. This is a little serrated. It'd probably be good for cutting like a pizza or something.
I really like this when I'm working with the Dutch oven and trying to clean out the Dutch oven, scraping every last little bit out of it. It's a very sturdy one. We bought it and we're like, I'm not really sure, but it's come in handy definitely in our kit.
A can opener, because you can't open that can of vegetables without a can opener. So this is an old-fashioned turnstile, and it also does have the little hooky thing on there if you need to pop the can. I don't think they make high C and pop cans anymore like that.
Hope not.
Everyone needs something to light their stove with.
Yeah. We usually, there's only one here on the table, but we usually have 3 or 4 with us. Just because you never know when this decides not to work. We also usually travel with a box of stick matches, in a Ziploc bag to keep them nice and dry.
Yeah.
But we have multiple options of lighting stoves and fires.
Yes. So we have, we just bought like a little cheap set of spoons. They're good to just throw in. We use them like for condiments, with the little condiment bowls we had earlier, or also they do come in handy for the Scout that does not have a utensil to eat his breakfast with. A paring knife and a vegetable peeler. Just kind of general use. You never know when
you're going to make potatoes or need to peel a carrot.
Right. Yes. We got a pair of kitchen shears.
Again, never know when you're going to need to cut something open or you have use for the scissors.
So we bought a set of knives. We have like a chef's knife. It's a little bigger than a paring knife. And then a serrated bladed knife. Serrated blades are good for bread. And they are also good for tomatoes because the serration will cut the skin and not slide around.
Yeah. One of the important things about the blades is even if you don't buy a knife that has a built-in blade protector, there are aftermarket blade protectors, and that's really important to have. Because when you put your knife in your case, you want to make sure that you're not going to accidentally cut yourself when you open it or reach in to grab it. And it also protects your knife blade to make sure nothing else dents it or scratches it or dings it up. So, we went round and round. You can get a whole bunch of different knives. What we really figured out was we looked at what knives we typically use at home when we're making food or we're making the type of food that we take camping. And we kind of broke it down to these knives. If we added another one, it was probably something similar to this size, a general purpose cutting knife would probably be another one that we would add to it.
Yeah.
They not only they make plastic ones, but they make roll wrap, like canvas or fabric knife wraps. Would be another way of storing them nice,
Yeah.
securely and safely.
Yes. And then the last 3 items are interesting. You have the cheese grater or the box grater. It has a tray in it, so you don't necessarily have to do it over a plate. You can use it for cheese, you can use it for vegetables, you could use it for chocolate if you're making a cake and you need chocolate sprinkles on the top of it.
Definitely in the area of not needed on your first camp, but
Absolutely.
we had it.
We have a garlic press. Again, not one of those things you probably need on your first camp out. It does come in handy if you're doing something that you need the garlic flavor for.
Yeah, we end up cooking a couple times for some of our training weekends, and when we do the training weekends, we try to make nicer meals for the leaders. You guys are coming out and spending time learning more about stuff, and we want to show you an enjoyable meal and an enjoyable time, but give you a chance to realize that you can make some fancier meals when you're cooking. You don't always have to eat beans and weenies or hot dogs on a stick.
Or spaghetti.
So garlic press definitely comes in handy sometimes.
Yes. And the last 2 things in our box are little tiny paintbrushes.
Yep.
They have only been used for food. If you make a foil pack, it's helpful so you know whose foil pack is whose. We have in the past tried Sharpies, but the Sharpie gets burned off in the fire.
We've tried taking foil and making it like animal shapes, and that doesn't work when you flip it over. You break the swan's neck. It's not really fun.
But we have learned that if you use mustard, just a light coating of mustard, just a little bit, and you can write your initials on it, let it dry, and then as it goes in the fire, it bakes to a dark brown tinge on the foil so you know whose is whose.
Yeah, the real trick there is a thin coating. You don't want any goopy left on it because by the time it's in the fire, it doesn't burn off enough to set up and make
it just
that.
falls off.
Yeah, it falls off. So there you have it. Those are our utensils. So now you're camping and you're ready to make your meal, or you're ready to serve the scouts. How do you make sure you have clean hands as you're getting ready to prepare? Well, there's a couple options. You got the hand sanitizer that you can use and keep your hands or get your hands clean that way. You can use antibacterial wipes as another option. One thing that we found a couple years ago was using a 5-gallon water jug and a product that we found on Amazon. It's a little pump. What we do is we take off our cap and you stick this in there, and it gives us some running water. Make sure you keep your cap, because that way if you don't finish the water jug over the weekend or over your event, you can put the cap back on and transport it back home. This guy works out really nice. All you have to do is pump it a couple times and you get some running water. What we'll do, if you're preparing your food, you can put some soap in your hand, pump it a couple times, wash and rinse it, and shake your hands clean. When we did picnics for our Cub Scouts, we would have this, and we have a parent stand here and station, man it, maybe 2 parents, one giving them a little squeeze of soap, and the other doing the pumping and making sure that they're not playing in the water. Always want to make sure you have some sort of bin or a 5-gallon bucket to collect the runoff. That way you don't erode the surface or the area that you're, or make it a mud pit, I guess is the bigger thing, that you're using. One of the other nice features about doing this is if you needed water for cooking or making coffee or any of those other things, it makes a really nice dispenser to be able to get the water out of there. All right, so you've enjoyed your meal, you've made a great dinner, and now it's time to clean up. Back in the day at summer camp, week-long summer camps for Scouts BSA or Boy Scouts back in the day, they would make a wash station that was nice at a comfortable height so they're not bending over and breaking their backs. Not sure who travels with 6 hiking sticks and some rope, or actually 10 hiking sticks and some rope, or who has time for that on a weekend campout. So that's why we like bringing this tabletop. It's a little bit higher and a lot easier to work on, so you're not bending over backwards. Our typical station is 3 stations. It's a wash basin, a rinse basin, and a sanitization basin or bleach basin. Let's talk a little bit about the soap. In our soap station, you want to try to use biodegradable soap. Biodegradable soap is available at the camping stores, sporting goods stores. You can find it online at Amazon, or if you use Method, or I think it's Mrs. Meyer's soap, the dish soap, those are biodegradable. I strongly suggest trying to grab a trial size container. I don't think they sell those in trial sizes, but a smaller container that you can use and refill. Because don't tell my wife, but I took this out for this right now, and if I don't get it back there, I think she's going to be mad. Definitely would be mad if I didn't bring it home from a camp out. So that's that. In addition to soap and hot water or warm water, you'll need some sort of things, maybe like a scrub brush, scrubbing pad to be able to clean the surface, maybe a wash rag to be able to wipe down plates and things like that. And we like bringing a scrub brush so you can get down in some of those water bottles and things like that, because a lot of scouts, even some adults, like putting juices or other Kool-Aid or something like that into a water bottle, and you need to clean them out once in a while. One important thing about your wash station is, depending on how many plates and dishes you're making, you may need to replace the water once or twice as you're going through. It's not like your house, right? There's no garbage disposal under here, so you really want to make sure that you take and scrape your plates and pans and put it into a garbage bin, so that you're not clogging up your sink with or your bin with a bunch of noodles. So that's our wash station. Next is our rinse. Rinse should be a hot water rinse, so you can take it out, rinse it, put it in here, and then pass it on to the next station, the last station being a bleach station or a sanitization station. Some troops use bleach tablets, available again at camping stores or online at Amazon. Read the bottle, because it's usually 1 or 2 tablets that you toss into your bin and get that dissolved. Little secret, it's supposed to be kind of coolish water. Little secret is take a cup or 2 of hot water, clean hot water, and put it in with your tablet. Get a clean spoon or a stirring utensil from your bin and use it to help dissolve your the bleach tablet. Once it's fully dissolved, then you can fill up the rest of the bin with some cooler water to be able to use as that station. If you don't really like using bleach tablets, because bleach tablets actually have an expiration date. I think really the expiration on that is due to the dissolving, the can't say that word. We'll put it in post. But the dissolving factor of it. So, but some units will use little bottles. They'll bring little bottles of liquid bleach out. And that's, I think, about a tablespoon per gallon of water that you're going to use to get that ratio. Couple things about the bleach in the liquid bottle. You really want to clearly label that bottle as bleach. Do not ingest. It's really important because a lot of times a clear bottle you can't really tell if it's water or bleach. So that's important. And then again, any of our liquid surfaces, usually what I'll have is in all our containers, I'll put them in a larger Ziploc bag and zip it up to protect any leakage as we're traveling or moving around. Another thing that I usually bring along with is a couple SOS pads. I leave them in a Ziploc bag so that they don't get messy as I'm transporting them. They're usually one-time use. I use them to scrape or clean out a pot or the outside of a pot if it gets messy. A couple things about SOS pads. Don't use this on Teflon. That's why we use a scrubby pad that is Teflon safe. And don't use it on cast iron. The soap in there in the cast iron, some people, not going to get into that whole discussion of soap and cast iron, but just don't use it there. Little note, if you're going to do some cooking on a fire, if you're going to take a pot and put it over an open flame, take some soap and rub it around the outside of your pot. That will help keep down the ash and the soot and make it easier to clean off that pot. So those are a couple tricks. Two other things I want to give you a tip for. we were big fans of collapsible totes. So not only the traditional cheap ones, inexpensive totes, but you can get these collapsible totes and use that same kind of concept. And I also like using some clothespins that have the hooks on them. And what that's handy for is when I take my towels after I'm done, if I put them on the over a table or over a bin, it gets, if the wind comes, it picks it up and throws it on the ground. So usually when I clip it here, I can put it on a clothesline and allow my towels and rags to dry out. A couple things about towels and rags. Whatever you think you're going to need, bring double. We also find it handy sometimes to bring some larger towels to be able to put out on a table to be able to lay your dishes and stuff out for airing out and letting it air dry a little bit more.
And that concludes our primer on setting up your outdoor kitchen. Thank you for joining us.
Remember that we offer the Blue and ILS courses in the fall and spring seasons, and it's a great time for you to get some training and learn about additional topics.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.
And if you have new ideas or any other help that you need, please let us know. In the meantime, we're going to sit back, pop open a frothy one. I got some cream soda.
I got some root beer.
And we're going to enjoy the rest of the virtual campout.